This is the autobiography of William Wilson Brown, who was born in 1901 in Kilmarnock, Scotland. He was the third child of Jean Cowie Johnstone Brown and her husband, William Fleming Brown. This autobiography is not quite as organized as I wish it would be, but I hope that you'll be able to read it. It's very pleasant, and he tells a lot about his childhood and what it was like growing up in the countryside around Kilmarnock, the things he did in school, the games he played, and the things that he studied. It's quite nice. He was a good student, studied engineering in school and other technical courses. His father died in 1918. At that time, all the family went to work. He's had a number of interesting jobs. He was a blueprint boy, and he was a soap boy in a barber shop. He was interested in music. He took voice lessons and joined the choir. He liked to go on vacations out to the seaside and visit his cousin, who lived with their father's brother, George Brown. He had a lot of different perfect attendance certificates from school. This is his birth certificate. And this is his school class. And another school class. His whole autobiography is in the album. This is his picture taken from the school picture. After the war and during the Depression, he decided that he would leave Scotland. Actually, he probably left around 1922, 23, and he was the first one to immigrate to the United States. And he then helped the others come over in 1925. He brought with him letters of recommendation from people that he had worked with, which were glowing about him. One says that he worked for 7 years, was satisfactory in every way, intelligent, clean, and had high initiative. They're very nice letters of recommendation. He has a memory of going out in the summer and gathering wild brambles. He attended the Presbyterian Sunday School. That's probably where he was in the choir. These are his naturalization papers, which he saved. And during World War II, starting in 1943, he was in the War Production Board office. And he has a lot of letters from the War Board saying what a wonderful worker he was and how hard he worked and what high esteem they held him in. He had the respect of the manufacturers and consulting engineers because of his unusual initiative and willingness to help in any emergency. He later worked for the Detroit Edison Company. This is his slide rule and his friends from the company. He was a very quiet man. Later in life, he was blind because of glaucoma, which he would not treat because he was a Christian Scientist. And he was a Christian Scientist because he married a woman who was a Christian Scientist. Her name was Margaret Celia Eskridge, born in Meadville, Mississippi on January 16, 1897. They had one child, Melvin Eskridge Brown, who was born May 28, 1929. And although Mel was 15 years older than me, I adored him. He was the family, of course, he was the only child in the family for many, many years, and his aunts and uncles just loved him. He was such a sweet little boy. His mother, Margaret, was very serious and shy and wouldn't have her picture taken very often. My father, Mel's uncle, took him on a trip, which I'm going to include in my YouTube account. Here's Mel when he's older. He graduated from Denby High School, entered the University of Chicago in 1946, and in 1948 he joined the Navy rather than to be drafted. He saw active service in Korea for 2 years. In 1951 he was back in civilian life and attended Parsons School of Design in New York for 3 years and attended New York University, getting a Bachelor of Degree in Education. He later got a master's degree from Wayne State University. In the Navy, he wrote a newsletter and wrote little cartoons and was very well received. Mel was gay at a time when it was not acceptable to be gay, and he hid that fact. But he was a drinker, and he would get drunk some evenings and call up my parents and talk to them in this kind of drunken stupor, and they didn't understand it. But as I grew older, I began to understand that he had to have a secret hidden life. He wasn't able to be open about who he was. As a child, he was just my absolute favorite because it was always fun when he was around. And he would let me do anything to express myself. When I was a little kid, I could run up and down the hallways, and he never criticized me. These are slides of Mel's that he took, and he used them in his art classes when he would teach. Looks like San Francisco. Lived in San Francisco, he lived in New York City, and he had relationships there. Ended up coming home, living in Detroit, teaching. There's Aunt Betty on the right, Uncle Jim, her husband. I would characterize his art as urban sketching, which is kind of like my art too. Here's a Mother's Day card. He called his mother Mudge. He did these quick water paintings. Unfortunately, he died of smoke inhalation. He fell asleep while he had left something on the stove in the days before smoke detectors. And he didn't wake up in time and died in 1977. It's very shocking to me. I was hoping that he was going to move to California. We had already moved here. And I was hoping he was going to join us. This is Mel at our house in Mount Vernon at Christmas. And his is his passport and all the different places that he had been. Here's Mel with his aunts Helen, Betty, and Jean. They just loved him to pieces. He was so friendly and sweet and helpful, and he was always doing something for you. He would always make interesting Christmas cards. Shortly after Mel died, his mother died, Margaret, and William then went to live with Aunt Helen, who took care of him until he died in 1983. He died out here in California. He was very quiet and withdrawn before he died. And that's the end of the story.